Students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss one of the most important topic from the geography mains examination. And if you look at the previous year questions, at least one question has been repeatedly asked every year without fail in the mains examination of General Studies 1. This is what we can refer as location factors for the industries. Now, industries are something, as you know, these are something that we can club in the secondary activities, which is very important chapter in the economic geography. So let us try to understand what do the term location factor itself represent, and what are the important location factor, most important location factor that is relevant for the development or setting up of manufacturing industries. Now, industries, as you know, the main purpose of industries is basically to convert raw materials into some meaningful processed products. And thus, whenever any enterprise, any companies, any government or any private entities want to establish industries, they cannot just go on and establish them randomly anywhere they want. First of all, there are several factors they have to take into consideration, depending on how many factors are coinciding with each other, depending on what is the probability of success of the industries, depending on what we can say the economic viability, profitability of the industries, then only finally decision is taken to put up the industries there. So if we talk about the location factors, the first and foremost, one of the most important location factor is something that we can call as raw materials, because as we have discussed in the definition of industries, what are industries? It is basically an enterprise that is converting or processing several raw materials into some meaningful end product, which can be directly used by consumers or can be used as a byproduct or as a raw material by the other industries. So for example, the availability of raw materials, on that basis we can classify it into two parts. One, what we can say is pure raw material, and other is what we can refer as ubiquitous raw materials. Now, what is pure raw materials? Pure raw materials refer to such kind of raw materials that are found in only some fixed places. They are not distributed uniformly, equally everywhere on the earth. So such raw materials, they have what we can say is limited presence in the world, limited presence in the any particular region. On the other hand, ubiquitous raw material refers to such kind of raw materials which are available over a large area. They are widespread, they are present almost everywhere. So on that basis, if we talk about industries, if industries are basically using the pure raw material, then the most economic sense will be for setting up such industries in areas which are closer to the raw material. The best example of this we can see in the case of iron and steel industry. Now we know that iron and steel industry, basically it requires two types of raw material. One is you have iron ore and other is you have coal. So we know that iron ore and coal both are not found ubiquitously everywhere. They are located in certain limited regions, and that is why what you will find that most of the iron and steel industries across the world, including India, are situated closer to these sites of raw material. For example, in case of India, we know that most of the iron and steel industries, where they are located in the states such as Jharkhand, West Bengal, Odisha and Chhattisgarh. So why the iron and steel industry has located there or situated there? Because obviously in this area we have the plateau that is called as Chota Nagpur Plateau, and Chota Nagpur Plateau has a rich reserve of both the raw materials such as iron ore and coal. So that is how we can understand the location factor of raw material. Now some industries which have ubiquitous raw material, generally such industries do not take into consideration the availability of raw material, rather they move to certain areas which are closer to the market so that they can cater to the demand of the consumer. Now in this also we can have multiple variant. For example, if we talk about raw materials, now raw material we can also divide in two types. For example, some raw materials which can be light in weight and some raw materials which are heavy in weight. So in the case where raw materials are heavier, There obviously, if industries are situated far from the site of raw material, what will happen? The transportation cost of heavy raw material will become much more higher, and that is why industries tend to prefer again near to the site of raw material. On the other hand, if the raw materials are lightweight in nature, and suppose that 10, 20, 30 of different kind of raw material is being utilized to manufacture one product which becomes very heavier, then obviously in this case, since the raw materials are of very light nature, their transportation cost will not be so much higher. But if the finished product which they are making from multiple raw materials is much more heavier, then obviously the economic sense will be to set up such industries near the market. So basically what we can understand, there is always a choice between setting up industries either closer to the site of raw material or setting up industries near to the site of market. And how it is determined? It is determined whether raw material is heavy or whether raw material is light. That is one way. Second, we have discussed before, depending on whether the raw material is of pure nature or whether the raw material is of ubiquitous nature. If raw material is of ubiquitous nature, generally industries tend to set up near the market. On the other hand, if raw material is of pure nature, industries tend to prefer the site that is closer to the raw material. The another variant is something where we can divide the raw material on the basis of their perishability. For example, we can have certain raw materials which are of perishable nature. Perishable nature means that if it is not used in a small period of time or very, we can say after we extract these raw materials, if it is not used for a certain duration, within a certain duration, it will be spoiled and it will become useless. On the other hand, some materials, raw materials can be said to be of perishable nature. So perishable and non-perishable. Perishable means that you have to use it within a certain time duration. Non-perishable means that you have to you can keep these raw materials for as long time as possible. There will not be some significant effect of time on these raw materials. So here obviously we try to understand what is the example of perishable raw material. These are largely, for example, milk, if you can understand. So we know that the milk is acting as a raw material for industries, which we can refer as a dairy industries. In dairy industries, you have a lot of food items are there. For example, you have chocolates are there, butter is there, cheese, paneer, and all these things. So milk has a limited shelf life. If you do not use milk for a certain period of time, it will become spoiled, and the entire industries, the factories will be impacted. Other example we can take is obviously of sugar industry, where the raw material is sugarcane. Now we know that if sugarcane after harvesting, being harvested from the field, if they are not used for manufacturing of sugar, if they are not consumed, then what will happen? It will keep on losing its sucrose content because of the heat effect, and thus the overall yield of sugarcane will keep on reducing with passage of time. So such industries which are using such kind of perishable raw material, obviously the best site for them will be as close to the site of raw material as possible, because the transportation time delay can be avoided if the industries are closer to the raw material. For example, sugar mills. If sugar mills are situated closer to the field of sugarcane, obviously they can use this raw material as fast as possible. If dairy industry is situated near the area where milk is produced in large amount, obviously the what we can understand, the overall transportation time can be saved. However, some industries are using non-perishable raw material. For example, coal. Now, no matter how long you store the coal at certain places, it will not have certain degradation in its overall value, and thus the effect of non-perishable raw material in controlling the location of industries is slightly limited as compared to the perishable raw material. Thus, raw material, depending on their nature, depending on the amount or number of raw material that is being used to particular industries, it determines the location of a certain industries. After raw material, if you talk about the second location factor is what we can call as power or electricity. Power or electricity, because we know that any industries, they cannot run without power, and thus availability of power plays a very important role, and mainly the cheaper source of power, if it is available in certain areas, it actually act as a magnet and attract a lot of industries. For example, we know that today we have various ways of producing power, such as thermal power we have, we have hydropower is there, then we have what we can say power that we can generate from or by using the natural gas, or we have nuclear energy, or we have renewable energy such as solar, wind, solar energy, wind energy, and tidal energy. So what we generally see that if the power supply is continuous, then obviously industries will not have to suffer the blackouts, and that is why they tend to prefer those regions, those states, those districts where there is no disruption or long term or short term disruption in the power supply. And that is something you can see clearly in the case of India. In terms of industrialization, it is the western part of India that is very industrialized, especially if you look at the states such as Gujarat, Maharashtra, and then further to the south we have Tamil Nadu. So these are one of the most industrialized states of India, and the reason being, one of the major reason being is the continuous supply of power, because all of these states are what we can call as energy surplus states. So that is why it has attracted industries for a long period of time from all across the India. The best example of this we can see in the case of Odisha. Now we know that Odisha is a state which is having the highest amount of bauxite reserve in the country. However, if you look at the bauxite cannot be used directly. Bauxite has to be converted first into what we can call as alumina powder, and then from this alumina powder, which is a very energy intensive process, finally you have the manufacturing of aluminium that is done. So the amount of power, the amount of energy that is required is very higher, and also you need to have a continuous supply of energy there. And that is what we can understand in this case study, that despite Odisha having the highest reserve of bauxite, in the initial time, since there was very irregular supply of power, Odisha is an energy deficient state. Thus, it was not able to attract aluminium smelting industries in the state of Odisha. And then what happened? The bauxite reserves were converted. The bauxites were first of all converted into alumina, and then if we try to understand on the map of India, if we have the India like this, somewhere here what do we have? This is our, for example, let us say Odisha. So what used to happen, due to lack of power supply, despite having huge bauxite reserves, alumina was taken from Odisha and then sent all the way to Kerala. Now why Kerala is chosen here? Because Kerala also has a surplus supply of electricity. There is a regular supply of power and electricity, and thus the smelting, or we can say the processing of alumina to aluminium used to happen in Kerala, not in Odisha. So this transportation, this extra cost that we have to pay mainly was because of why? Because of the lack of power or lack of electricity. So that is why power electricity, especially for power intensive industries, become very important. And also one examples we can see that in the case of Tamil Nadu. Initially, if you look at just after independence or before independence, Tamil Nadu did not have a lot of cotton textile industries. Most of the cotton textile industries were situated in the western states of Maharashtra, and then further they went to Gujarat. But once hydroelectricity started to develop at a fast pace in Tamil Nadu, such as development of Paikara thermal power plant, Paikara hydroelectricity plant, and also nearby this Coimbatore area, gradually what happened? It attracted a lot of industries, and thus in the Coimbatore region of Tamil Nadu, we have the development of cotton textile industry after western part of India. So the development of cotton textile industry in Coimbatore can specifically be traced back to generation of hydroelectricity. Now why hydroelectricity? Because of all the modes of electricity, all the modes of power that we have available with us today, it is the cheapest mode of electricity. So obviously if industries are using hydroelectricity based power, there what will happen? Their the cost of production will be less, that means their profitability will be higher, and that is one reason why a lot of industries have been attracted here. So that is the second factor, the regular supply of power and electricity. Third we have is obviously market. Now imagine that you have developed industries of very unique kind of product, but if this product that you are manufacturing in the industries, if there is no demand of this product, if there is no market for such products in the nearby areas, then obviously what will happen? Whatever costs that you have incurred, you will not even be able to regenerate those costs. Thus, the availability of market and near to the site of production is very essential for the success of any industry. For example, if you talk about sugar industry, so why most of sugar industries were situated in the northern part of India? Because northern part of India, because of its plain region, has the highest population density, and obviously sugar is something that is used by consumers directly. Thus, sugar consumption is directly dependent on the population density. So obviously most of the sugar mills of India up till at least 1970s were situated where? They were situated in the North India. So this is one example of market based industry. Similarly, if we talk about other example outside of India, we can understand that USA. USA is actually the largest consumer of paper in the world, and that is why, which is the largest producer of paper in the world? It is the Canada. So the development of paper and pulp industry in Canada can also be traced directly to the demand of paper in the nearby country, the bordering country of USA. So that is also one example of the market based industries that we can think. Similarly, if we talk about textile industry, now we know that cotton textile industries, they are developed in a very large manner in the south part of India or southern India, but the woolen textile industry is not developed here. Woolen textile industry in case of India, where you will find only in the states such as Punjab. You have regions such as Ludhiana, Amritsar, Hoshiarpur. So these regions are well known for the woolen textile industry. However, cotton textile industries are well developed in the state of South India such as Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. So what is the reason behind that? Again, simple, we can understand. Because of the tropical climate that South India enjoys for a longer period of time, for a longer duration of time in the year, the demand for woolen textile or woolen textile based product is very limited, very less. Thus, development of any woolen textile industries here will be kind of non-profitable, because why? The market is kind of non-existent here. Thus, that is why we can see the distribution of cotton textile in South India and woolen textile is in North India. So market serve as a very important factor, location factor, that also determines the development or setting up of any industries. Coming to the fourth factor, again a major factor is labor. Now we know that labor is something that we can consider as a backbone of any industries, and labor, now we can classify labor. First of all, what kind of labor industries prefer? Industries prefer cheap labor. Cheap labor means where they have to pay relatively less wages, lower wages as compared to other areas. Second, many industries required skilled labor. Some industries also required unskilled labor largely. So cheap, skilled or unskilled, or what we can say abundant labor supply, that is when the wages can be relatively lesser. So what is best for industries? Both. We should have cheap labor, abundant labor, and both availability of skilled and unskilled labor. So wherever all these labor or labors having these characteristics are present, it also serve as a very good attraction point for basically bringing industries in that particular area. In case of India, for example, we can see the iron and steel industry that has developed in the eastern part of India. One of the major factor is obviously the availability of cheap and skilled and abundant labor, because in the states in the eastern India such as West Bengal, Odisha, Chhattisgarh regions are there. So in these regions, what do we have? First of all, population density is very higher. So if higher the population density, obviously what will happen? There will be abundance of the labor supply. Second, also since population density is higher and largely it is inhabited by the tribal people, so they are even willing to work at low wages just to sustain their livelihood. They do not have a lot of demands, they do not have a lot of expectations as such. So they are willing to work just to have a square meal in a day. So that is why it has also attracted a lot of industries apart from raw material. The East India also provide industries with an abundant supply of cheap, skilled and unskilled labor. The other example we see is in the western states such as Gujarat and Maharashtra. Now in Gujarat and Maharashtra, if you look at that, 70 to 80% of the labor supply that is working in industries such as cotton textile industries or in other kind of industries, most of they are coming from here. They are coming either from the North India or East India, and that is why they are able to work at low wages here, and thus industries are continuously provided with the labor from the North and East India. So the availability of labor plays a very, very important role, plays a very, very dominant role, because the cost of labor can actually make or break any industries. For example, in the case of Japan, if you look at Japan, in Japan, when they were setting up cotton textile industries, they had problem of getting labor, because obviously, first of all, Japan is very industrialized country. So you do not have the labor that is willing to work at low cost. And second, also the population of density of Japan is very, very less. So the availability of labor is also a big issue. So what Japan has to do? Japan knew that they cannot depend on labor. So they have to do some innovation. And that is why the entire cotton textile production in Japan has been made completely automated and mechanized. That means if 100 kg of cotton, suppose for example, is being produced by India by 10%, the same 100 kg of cotton in Japan can be produced only by 3%. So this has been made possible how? By doing automation and mechanization. Now obviously, if you do automation and mechanization, what will happen? It will raise the capital cost, increase the capital cost. That means the Japanese textile industries are more capital intensive, while the Indian textile industry is what we can call as labor intensive. So basically, that is how we can understand also the differences in the same industrial setup, but in two different countries we will see the differences, we will see the variation because of the location factor that varies here. Here Japanese economy do not have the resource crunch. They have already enough capital they can invest here, but Indian economy, they have resource crunch, so they have to depend on the labor, and availability of labor is also there. Similarly, if you talk about the fifth factor, the fifth factor is something that we can call as, for example, space. Space, or we also can write it as a relief. What kind of space, what kind of relief we have where the industries are going to be set up? For example, in the case of Kerala in India, what do we have? The problem is that Kerala is a mountainous terrain, so there is a very, very, very limited space in the Kerala, and due to this limited space, what happens? There is less space available for the industries, because agriculture is also being done. You have the development of cities is being done. You have construction of houses that is happening. So due to this limited space in Kerala, what happens? The development of industries is very, very limited in nature. So though there are other factors as well, because Kerala is far, far away from the mineral heartland of India, we can say. Despite that, the lack of raw materials, lack of mineral resources, and the limited space that is available in this particular state, the industrial development has not happened to an extent as the other counterpart of Kerala in the southern India, such as Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. Similarly, if we talk about Northeast India, so obviously, if you divide India into various different regions, Northeast India is what we can consider as the most laggard region in the case of industrial development. What is the culprit here? The culprit, one of the most important major culprit, is what we can call as the relief of Northeastern India. The entire Northeastern states are either, most of them are either covered by the difficult geographical terrain, or they have dense forests. So obviously, setting up of any industries in such uneven kind of relief, uneven kind of landform, where you're having a lot of natural hazards as well, such as earthquakes, landslides, floods, becomes very, very difficult for industries to develop there. So these are the two examples we can quote where the space or relief becomes a very, very important factor in setting up of industries. Most of the industries you will see in India or any other place in the world, they do not they do not exist in the mountainous terrain or desert terrain. Most of them prefer which kind of relief? They prefer a flat, featureless relief where there is a less chance of any disturbance, any natural hazards to occur. So that is the other very, very important factor. The last core geographical factor that affect the development of industries is what we can call as climate. Now, climate do not affect all the industries. For example, if we talk about climate, the most important effect of climate is something that we can see in the cotton textile industries. So basically what happens in the cotton textile industries, you have the cotton flowers. These cotton flowers have to be converted into big cotton threads, and then by weaving of these threads, you have the development or manufacturing of the cotton textile. The problem is that if cotton textile industries are situated in areas having dry climate, arid climate, there is less amount of moisture. And since there is less amount of moisture, when this process of conversion of cotton flowers into large threads is being done, the threads that will be prepared will become very small, because threads will continuously keep on breaking. That means to weave or to prepare longer cotton threads, what do you require? You require humid kind of climate, you require moist climate, and thus obviously in which kind of region you will have humid climate or moist climate? So answer will be obviously it will be near the coastal region, and that is why now you can relate that in India, where do we have development of cotton textile industry in the beginning? It has happened in the state of Maharashtra near Mumbai. Why it has happened there? Obviously because the climate there is humid because of its coastal location, and humid climates you will be able to weave longer threads of the cotton textile, which is not possible in dry or arid kind of climate. So that is how climate also is affecting the location of industries to a certain extent. Indirectly, we can also what we can say, climate is affecting the development or production of raw materials as well, because many industries which are using agro-based raw materials, that is largely determined by what? Climatic factor. If climate is not suitable, for example, in the West Bengal or the nearby Bangladesh region, we have good development of which kind of industry? Jute textile industry. So why jute textile industry has developed here, not in any other part of India? Simple reason is because of the suitable climate. Jute develops in a climate which is hot as well as very humid, and there is sufficient availability of water for irrigation, because jute crops remain submerged underwater for an extended duration of time. So such kind of climate only we see in the coastal regions, deltaic regions of Sundarban, that is extending to the West Bengal and Bangladesh. So indirectly, climate is also impacting your raw material production, and this raw material production is also determining the development of industry. So jute textile in West Bengal, cotton textile in the western part of India such as Maharashtra, these are what we can quote as the example of the development of industries that has happened due to suitable climatic factors. So this is about the major geographical factors that affect or impact the distribution of industries or location of industries. Apart from that, what else we can say? Some other minor factors are there, such as obviously we need to have good development of the modes and means of transportation, because no matter wherever you are setting the industries, either near a market or near the raw material, what do you require? You require either to transport the raw material for certain places to the industrial establishment, or you need to transport the finished product to the nearby market. In both the cases, if mode of transportation, means of transportation are not available, the industries cannot survive, industries will have to shut down. And thus, in terms of mode of transportation, we know that we have mainly 4 major modes of transportation, such as roadways, railways, waterways, and airways. Now, out of all this, obviously, since industries are something that are basically transporting a very huge amount of raw material, or very huge what we can say weight of raw material as well as the finished products, the airways is something that becomes very costly for most of industries. Thus, industries rely on which kind of mode of transportation? Either roadways, railways, and waterways. Even if you compare these three, what we can see, that waterway is something that is the cheapest mode of transportation. Railway is something that is second cheapest mode of transportation, and roadways out of these three are what we can see as the costliest mode of transportation. So obviously, if industries are, or any private companies, their government companies there, they want to expand their industrial location, they want to expand their industries, and if they have three choices, obviously where they will try to prefer or tend to prefer, obviously they will prefer in those areas where you have good development of water-based transportation, whether it is the maritime transportation in the sea, or it can be the inland waterway transportation within a particular region. So waterway being the cheapest mode of transportation also attracts a lot of industries and industrial development, and this is the reason why government from past few years is focusing heavily in development of national waterways infrastructure. Government has declared that in the near future total 111 national waterways will be developed. Out of that, as of now, around 13 of the waterways has already become functional. They already are providing cheap mode of transportation for transportation of the industrial raw material, finished products, or any other kind of ancillary products. So that is the first thing. Even between railways and roadways, the one reason what economic survey has quoted before, that China and USA, why the cost of what you can say production is lesser here as compared to India. Well, the major reason is the extensive development of the railway network in these countries, which reduces the cost of transportation and increases the profitability of industries here. So that is about the transportation. Now some other factors which we can say is non-geographical factors also is obviously for setting up industries. What do you require? You require capital. So you can say the availability of capital, and largely in modern times, where do we have the capital from? We get the capital from the banking institutions, so we should have availability of banking facilities. Not only that, in modern times what is happening? Industries are prone to damage either by natural hazards or any other kind of event. Thus the availability of insurance facilities are also required. Not even that, today situation has come to such an extent that these insurance companies also get reinsurance. That means you have reinsurance, then you have the reinsurance of reinsurance. So all these kind of financial facilities, if they are available readily, easily in certain regions, then industries will have a certain advantage to locate there. So that is why in the older time, during the colonial time, during the British era, we know that the availability of capital, banking institutions, financial institutions was very, very limited. It was either in the eastern India, such as Kolkata, or in western India, such as Mumbai, or then in the north India, that is the capital city of India, that was New Delhi. So most of industries, where they were concentrated in these 3-4 regions, metropolitan regions we can say, or Madras, old times, we have Chennai in modern times. So the main reason why industries preferred these areas, one of the reasons was the easy availability of capital for banking institutions, insurance institutions, and some extent nowadays we have reinsurance as well. For example, we have a country in South America that is called as Chile. So in Chile, what happened? Chile, there was a very severe magnitude of earthquake. So this earthquake damaged a lot of industries. Thus, where will industries recover this damage from? Industries will recover this damage from the insurance companies. But the problem is that the earthquake has happened not in a small area, it has happened over a very large area. So the damage to the industries was not limited to few industries. It basically was basically it spread over the number of industries in the same region. So all these industries went where? They went to the insurance companies. Now insurance companies do not have so much economic resources that they can cater to the damage of all the industries. So where will insurance companies claim their money from? They will claim their money from the reinsurance companies. So that is how we have the kind of, we can say, financial layering that is trying to protect the industrial setup. And thus wherever these institutions are very well developed, they will have more number of industrial development as per the location factor. This last, what we can understand also is, apart from all these, the most important factor that plays a very strong role, at least in the case of countries such as India, where government still has a lot of control in determining the policies and programs and schemes of industries. Government policies also either attract the industries or pushes away the industries from their region. For example, in case of West Bengal, the Kolkata Haldia region, that extended all the way to Nahati in the north, and then all the way that extended to Bansberia in the south. So Kolkata, Haldia, Nahati, Bansberia. If you look at the independence, just after independence in India, 1947, 1948, we have more than 500 industries in this region. 500 to 1000 industries were situated in this region. It was one of the most industrialized belt of the India just after independence. But if you look at the present status of the same region, merely the industries has been reduced to just 1/10 of what it used to be. So we have now only 50 to 60 industries in this region. So basically this is the only industrial region of India that basically has undergone what we can call, it has undergone a phase of deindustrialization, where industries are either not coming, new industries are not coming, rather the older industries are migrating away from this particular region. And one of the major factors that is attributed to such deindustrialization is the government policy, because government policy was very strict in case of the functioning of industries, working of industries, in case of the control of over the labor resources, in case of the industrial policies or industrial relations policy. So due to this, what happened, not only the new companies did not prefer this area, but older companies also started to find some other location, more suitable location for them. One example, recent example that we can quote is of Tata. So Tata wanted to establish its nano car, it has announced few years back. So Tata wanted to set up its nano manufacturing plant in the West Bengal. But the problem was that government was delaying the procurement of the land, acquisition of the land, and this becomes so big headache, and the time and cost overrun started to increase to such an extent that at the same time, when Gujarat government invited Tata company that they can set up their plant in the Gujarat and they will do all the process of getting this what you can say licenses, getting clearances, getting all kinds of government approvals, as well as the acquisition of land will be done in a very short period of time. So nearby Sanand region of Gujarat, what happened? Gujarat government gave a very large piece of land to the Tata company at very low cost, at very fraction of cost of what they wanted to buy the land in the case of West Bengal. So what Tata company did, rather than setting up new industries in West Bengal, they migrated to Gujarat, and in Sanand district you have the functioning of Tata Nano that was happening. So that is how we can understand the government policy. So sometimes government policy leads to deindustrialization of the region, because if it is not attractive policy, industries will not come there. Second, also sometimes what happens, that government try to develop industries in such area where we do not have suitable location factors, and that cause the running of industries and what we can say in losses. For example, in the places such as Barauni, that is in Bihar, or in place such as Mathura, that is in Uttar Pradesh. Now Barauni and Mathura, what do you have today? You have one of the biggest petroleum refineries of India. The problem is that when these industries were being set up in Barauni and Mathura, there was not a single location factor that is mainly required by the petrol and refined industries. It is very far away from any kind of raw material. It is very far away from any kind of what we can say, apart from raw material, it is very far away from any kind of the transportation factor that allows the transportation of the raw materials in petroleum refined industries or the finished products such as gases and all that. So there was no development of the pipelines. The raw material was very far away from these areas, despite government set up petroleum refineries here. Largely why? Because they wanted to achieve a equitable or they wanted to achieve a balanced regional economic growth in different parts of India. That is why in Chhattisgarh also many places you have the iron and steel industries are there, that is far away from any raw materials such as iron ore or coal. So these are some of the policies that causes sometimes deindustrialization, sometimes causes the industrialization as well by setting up industries despite absence of location factors that helps in the creation of employment. Or for example, if you talk about outside India, you have Japan government. Now Japanese government, basically what happened in the region of Japan, earlier Japanese people used to wear silk based clothes, that is called as their traditional cloth, that is called as kimono. The problem is that gradually the demand of the silk textile or silk based products such as kimono started decline, and people started to shift to cotton based product. Now due to this, what happened, there has been a significant decline in the silk textile industry of Japan. So if there is a significant decline of silk textile industry of Japan, what happened, there is a lot of unemployment is there. So Japanese government, the regional government, they wanted to basically attract other industries. So they started to give a lot of benefits to the industries such as automobile industries, such as cotton textile industry. They were given land at a very fast rate in a very small period of time at a fraction of cost. all the taxes that the industries generally had to pay, for them it was reduced. So due to these attractive factors, what happened? Lot of textile industries, lot of automobile industries such as Toyota is there, you have then Honda is there, all started to move to that area where earlier there used to be silk production, silk textile production. So that caused actually the declining sericulture, declining silk textile industry that could have become deindustrialized region. It again become reindustrialized with new kind of industry. That is something also we can understand is largely an outcome of the government policy. And that is why government policy plays a very important role in industrialization or deindustrialization. The last location factor which we are going to discuss today is what we can say security situation. Security situation becomes very, very important because no one will try to develop industries or set up their industries in those areas where there is a high security risk. For example, in case of Afghanistan, Afghanistan has a lot of iron ore resources, iron ore reserves are there, but there is a very few iron steel industry that is working in what we can say Afghanistan. Why it is so? The reason is very, very simple. The security situation in Afghanistan is abysmally poor. So no matter what is the availability or no matter how widely distributed is the raw material in this region, we do not have any strong development of industries here. Same thing you can see in the case of the India. For example, in central India part, large amount or large area was under the Naxal affected regions. So that is why many industries, they, despite the presence of the raw materials in these areas, they wanted, the private industries especially, they wanted to avoid these regions because they have to face a threat of Naxals. Similarly, we talk about the Pakistan region. Many regions are there which are continuously being attacked by the Taliban or Tehreek-e-Taliban region. So there we have seen the deindustrialization or the fresh investment industries have hugely suffered. Or more recently, we talk about in Ukraine. So what is happening in Ukraine? We are having a war that is going on here. So due to war, obviously what will happen? There are a lot of investment that was lined up before this war, and all these industries now they have declared what, that they will wait for this war to be over, and once this war is over, then they will take fresh decision on the investment. So something that was so much we can say so much sure these companies were about to invest in these regions. For example, the ArcelorMittal, very recently ArcelorMittal has announced that it wanted to set up a very big plant in Ukraine, but now they are waiting for war to become over because the security situation is very, very poor, and any fresh investment, if they start to set up industries there, tomorrow there is a bomb, the bombarding or rocket attacks, then what will happen? Their investment will suffer. So the security situation, very good security situation, a safe kind of area, the safe kind of region is what is preferred by any industry. So if you combine them all together, total 6-7 factors that we have discussed till now. For example, the availability of raw material, the presence of market, availability of cheap, abundant, skilled labor. Then we have what I can say power supply. Then we have modes of availability of modes of transportation, availability of banking, financial institutions, insurance institutions. Then we have the government policy, favorable government policy toward the industries, and the sense of security that people feel, industrialists feel in a certain region. All these help in development of industry in that particular region. So that is all about the location factor for industries. So that is all for today's lecture. We'll again come with a new topic related to location factor. We'll discuss about the industries in the upcoming classes, and we'll start with the iron and steel industry in the next class. Thank you.